Hello, welcome to Mending Threads. This is your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness. This is a transformation series, mind, body, spirit, looking at all of the factions of actually moving through daily living and looking at the needs, pinpointing it. And so today, our show, not only in celebration of Black History Month, but setting the stage for moving forward in a new frame of mind, looking at us being of African American descent and looking at the stories and the remembrance of what brings meaning to our lives today. So we have two wonderful guests to get us kicked off, and later on we'll have another guest to join us to talk about the education area. So right now we want to bring on Rashid Salam, who says, think like a bank. And we're going to bring on Bishop Guyton, who is really looking at remembrances as well, looking at George Washington Carver's legacy and how we can bring that to fruition in our daily living. So I want to bring the two guests on today. Brother Rashid, how are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. And yourself?
Just great. Of course, we're taping it in the morning, but when people see it, it'll be 7 o'clock in the evening on Culture Vision TV.
Okay.
And so I do want everybody to join in on Culture Vision TV. Download the app so you can have it right there on your phone and you can watch everything we say and do. Okay. So let me just bring on Brother Rashid and Bishop Guyton. So one of the things that we know, we're going to talk, we have another young lady that's just going to join us to look at how economy affects us in education. But so I would like to kick off, since the topic was first, think like a bank. We want to look at why, and their questions, why would finance and money be so important to us, particularly now, and how has it been?
Is that the question?
That's yes. Looking at what makes money so important for people of African descent now, as opposed to before? What makes it ever more present, most important now?
Dr. Lewis, can I say this before we get started?
Yes.
Okay, now the gentleman that's getting ready to speak,
he's going to introduce himself.
Rashid Salam. I just want to.
Yeah, I want him to introduce himself as
I wanted to do a little introduction.
Oh, you want to bring him up? Bring him on. Bring him on.
I want you to know that it's good for us to say what we say about ourselves, but it's even more powerful when other people validate and introduce and hear other people say it. Now,
well, I'm going to let you please, I'm going to ask you to introduce him, and I'm going to ask him to introduce you.
Awesome. And I won't be long with the introduction because the information that he's about to share, we want to make sure he has as much time as we can give him in reference to that, because it's so much information to cover. Now,
well, this won't be his first time.
I know that's right. Rashid Salam hails from St. Louis, Missouri, and he was a former bank manager. So people, banks, money is his expertise. He's not just coming and talking off the top of his head. He is speaking what he lived, what he's demonstrated, and the evidence of the conversation that he, or the presentation that he's going to bring to us. He is bringing that with evidence, with commitment, as well as with demonstration.
Yes.
So I will to introduce to some and present to many, Brother Rashid Salam.
Thank you. And I would like for you, Brother Salih, if you could just introduce Brother Guyton, because I'll be getting all into stuff I don't need to be saying.
I hear you.
So you know what I'm saying? I know a whole lot of good stuff that he's done.
Okay, well, I'm going to be real brief. He's just a brother from the hood trying to do the world some good. As my friend, Dr. Guyton, that we've been knowing each other for several years now, and He's exciting, always exciting. He's done some phenomenal things in the community, and I don't have a bio that I can present him with. All I can share with you is this: he's my brother. I look forward to working with him in the future and doing things together. And he is an astronomical individual that I respect. And we'll leave it at that at this point. We don't
Well,
want
I
to.
do know both of you bring such a wealth of information to
Yes,
the
ma'am.
community, not
Yeah,
only to the show, but to the community.
right.
And I know that Brother Guyton, Bishop Guyton, has done a lot in terms of integrating the concept of money and history with wellness.
Yes,
Okay, and so I do know that he's a whole body wellness
yes, sir. Yes,
educator, trainer, and interventionist. And
absolutely.
I do know some stuff about you that I did mention is that not only do you integrate it, but I think that people need to know that you have brought and developed many training curriculums um, to the community so people could learn not only about banking and investing, but how to infuse it in education and how
Absolutely.
to make it a daily part of our living. So
Absolutely.
yes, I want to hear about that question, because I've been doing a little reading. I read something on your bio that
Hmm.
looks at the of importance of finance now
Right.
more than ever. Hmm.
Absolutely. We live in a world, a capitalistic society that they call a democracy, and it's just so far from the truth. And I always say this: capitalism unchecked is not a democracy. So we have to begin to understand some things about where we live. But let me just do this. I always like to introduce into the listening audience. We're not here to lavish ourselves. We're here. Our disclaimer is we're here to serve. One of the things that's in my bio is that the time that I have remaining here on earth is dedicated to be served and to serve others for what I do know. I don't plan to go to the grave with all this stuff in my head. So
Yes, yes.
service this is basically one of the things that I want to talk about. And
Mhm.
old gentleman told me a long time ago, he said, the best knowledge in this country is in the graveyard because it's
Yes.
untapped information that no one got out of a particular person, nor did people respect what they had to say. So that knowledge went away with that person when he on his final demise. Real quickly, I just want to say this to the listening audience: time. Time is the most important thing that we have going for us. Once we lose time, and once time goes by, we don't get it back anymore. It becomes history as soon as we finish speaking. So I just want to give some credence to time just a little bit by Benjamin Mays. I always try to open up with someone who's already paved the way for us. And it's a little quick 15, 30-second comment that Benjamin Mays did on the importance and significance of a minute. He says, I only have a minute. It's just 60 seconds in it. This minute was forced upon me. I couldn't refuse it. I didn't even seek it. But it's up to me to use it, and I will suffer if I lose it. Giving account of it, I will abuse it if not done properly. Just a tiny little minute, but an eternity within it. So I just want to open up with that statement from our beautiful brother Benjamin Mays. Just understand the importance of a minute, and I always say time and money is based on time as well. If you don't use your money in a timely fashion, then money will probably do you harm. It will cause you grief. It will cause you all different types of
Mhm.
transactions in your being if you don't know how to use money in the manner which it was designed for us to use. So we want to talk about a little bit about the importance of it and how to think like a bank and how to present ourselves as an entity. The definition of the word corporation, we give credit to banks and insurance companies and so forth and so on, but they're merely just entities. That is the only two entities I know of that we give our money to them freely. A bank opens up, we take our money and give it to them, not understanding why we're doing it, but it's based on some information that someone shared with us. And we can only know what we know. And most of us don't know that we don't know. And that's the ugly
Mhm.
situation. The insurance company, we take our money to an insurance company. Why? Because someone told us that we need insurance. Somebody told us we need to have our money in a banking entity. And a bank is merely just a depository facility where we take our money, not knowing why we do it, not knowing the benefits of what a bank is. We never ask the question. on how our money is being used. We never ask the question how what happens once I make my deposit, but we're limited. This is the scary part. We're limited to how much money we can take out on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, how much we can take out at one time, regardless of how much money we have in that particular entity. So understanding the basic concepts of what a bank is, you are a bank. You have the deposits. They don't have the deposit. All they do is open their door and you take your money to them. And what they do in turn is take all their daily deposits daily and monthly, and they borrow against your money. I want you to hear me. You're going to give someone your money, and they're going to take your money and aggregately go borrow some money against your money, and then deny you the opportunity to participate in the distribution of that of those particular funds.
Mm-hmm.
Redlining, credit scores, and all the things they put in front of us to say, well, you can only get money from us if you qualify under these circumstances. And we don't have a clue what a credit score is, how it's generated, how it's created, and how it's being used against us. Redline, if you live in a certain zip code, all the way down to your employment. If you live in a certain area, then you're redlined against. You're limited on what you can do and what you can't do. So it's a shame that we don't understand the banking entity. It's a shame that we don't understand what the insurance company does. It's a shame that we don't understand what employees do when it comes to our money and how we function.
But one of the things that I wanted to interject there with a question is, well, let me make a note.
Okay.
But the society is set up where your money, that they require your money to automatically be deposited
Yes.
many times in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I noticed, and I really, I guess maybe you can give credence to it or speak to it, is then there are not any banks. There are very few banks, or if any, that actually assist you not only in borrowing, but assist you in your development of investing in the proceeds that they have, that they gain. I guess there's the bank stocks or something, or
Yeah.
but you're required. You're identified in a category if you do not have an account in order to submit for payment.
Right. Right. You know, that's another travesty as well, that what they tell us is what they do to us, and we don't understand what it is that they're doing or why they are doing it. Deposits. Let's just stick with deposits.
Okay.
The education that we have about money is very limited. You can go to school for 12, 16, 18 years, 20 years, and guess what? You'll never, ever be taught about money. They're not going to tell you about it. And the reason they're going to tell you about it, because if you knew about it, you wouldn't put your money in the bank. Mm-hmm. So this education that's required, don't expect the banks to do it. Don't expect anybody to do it, not even the school systems to do it, because it's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. In a capitalistic society, the word capitalism tells you all you need to know. Someone is going to capitalize against you. So if I tell you something that I'm going to do and you know about it, you're not going to be capitalized against. So here comes the word consumer. Here comes the word the individual depositor. We put our money in these banks not knowing what it is that we're doing, because we're never educated about how money works in the first place. We don't even know the system. And think about this. Now, we live in America. We've been here for years. We don't even know or understand whether we're in a democracy, whether we're in a capitalistic society. We don't even understand how the money flow works. So whatever they tell us is what they tell us, and what we do is what they tell us to do.
Right.
So this mass psychosis of education in this country when it comes to finance is one of the problems that we have, and particularly as a community of Americans of African descent. We just don't understand the power of what we have. The greatest asset that we will ever have is our cash. But not knowing what to do with that cash puts us in a situation where we can't function, we can't participate in society in a manner in which we want to participate in society, because we don't know. And you can't be something that you don't know about, and you can't act in ways or information that's been given to you because you don't have the proper information to function in the first place. So this inability to participate in the financial arena in this country, the inability to participate in the housing industry, in the economic industry, in the credit card industry, the insurance industry, all these things that we go through every day, we don't have a clue how they work. We don't know what interest is. We don't know why we even being charged interest. What is the purpose of this? So this requires a broad, comprehensive education that we try to implement in the businesses and the classes and workshops that we do. We call it monetizing your attitude.
Right.
That's the key word.
So even you just mentioned something, Brother Salam, you just mentioned something about that. For example, if you look at your credit card statement, if you try to get out of debt and you look at how that you'd have to really study when the date that the interest, you'd have to get into that. If you're trying to pay off the car, you have to pay on a particular day.
Yeah.
And most people don't know. And each card, you have to figure out that date that you not the date they sent you.
That's right.
But the
payment date.
You,
They call it the payment date. I share with people in my classrooms that it could take you 5 or 6 or 7 years to build your credit up and really get what they call a credit, but only takes 60 days for you to run it. And what do I mean?
Tell me, because during the COVID, my credit just went down. I had almost an 8. And I'm telling you, my credit went down just because I couldn't get the payments in fast enough during the COVID because of the situation.
Yes, ma'am. That payment date, that restructuring, the interest rates, all are tied into specific things that before you give me a credit card, you should be able to educate me about that. I spoke at the University of Virginia to a bunch of graduating individuals who were getting ready to graduate from college. And I asked the question, I said, how many of you people have a credit card? Everybody raised their hand. I said, how many people can you use a credit card? About 10% of the people raised their hand. I said, how many people start off with a bank account? Everybody have a bank account. I said, how many people know what a bank account is and how much money do you have in your bank account that you could take and use for your personal life? And very few people raised their hand. We don't get this. And then the third question I asked them, okay, you guys are getting ready to graduate and you're going to probably wind up making $40,000, maybe $50,000 a year. What is your net income and how do you think you're going to survive in the society that you're about to go back into? Nobody raised their hand. Here we have educated people getting ready to participate in society and don't have a clue on how they're going to make it, don't know what they're net, don't know what their taxes are, don't know how it's going to benefit them, have no idea on how to participate in this world called credit. But guess what? As soon as you walk into a college campus, the first thing you get in is a credit card sent to you in the mail. You didn't ask for it, but they send you a credit card. Why do they send you that credit card? Because debt is what keeps you down and out, because you're so busy trying to figure out, as you say, trying to pay off this debt, that you never have an opportunity to find out why you're in debt in the first place. This convenience of giving you something for nothing, this convenience of putting you in a situation where you can, I can get this right now. That instant gratification, that instant gratification will get you in debt to the point where you can't even function mentally or as an individual. A lot of our young people wind up getting married at an early age because they can't make it on the salaries that they're making on, because they never had an understanding about what it is that I did to get myself in so much debt. So I go marry somebody else because I got another income, but you never talked about what that person went through.
And what debt they're going to bring to the
situation. That's right. So 64% of all the divorces in this country are basically because of financial debt. You get to, it's my account. It's my account. Wait, you didn't tell me that. Well, you never sit down and talked about it in the first place together as a part of one of the credit requirements, as part of one of the capacity requirements, a part of the requirements on getting married. You have to now pool 2 incomes, and nobody ever talked about who's going to spend what and when they're going to spend it. And you don't know how many credit cards she's bringing to the table or he's bringing to the table. So now we got total chaos. We arguing about things that we should have talked about prior to getting married. Don't understand why these particular things are happening. Then you got this thing called a credit report, this credit bureau, where if I have a person who gets married who had bad credit and the other person has good credit. Once you get married, guess what? That good credit person now has bad credit. And we don't realize why we can't get some of the things because we have never been educated about how this system works, how this education system works, to the point where now we are in a position and we're fussing and fighting about something we should have cleared up in the first place by sitting down and talking to each other about what each one has, what the requirements are, understanding insurance, understanding all the things that will make up building your own personal financial future. That's why we say monetize your attitude, meaning what? Understand what it is that you're involved in. Understand that bank accounts are merely just instruments to deposit your money, and someone else is using your money and you don't even know they're using it. And you want to go, oh, I opened up a bank account, I got $10,000 in the bank. You know, at the end of the year, your interest rates are so low, you're paying taxes on interest that you never really made any money off of. So you don't even know anything about the CDs, the investments, the money market accounts, all those types of things. You'll never get to that point as long as you're in debt. You'll never get to that point with a lack of education. So what we do, we turn our money over to someone else now who's taking our money, investing our money with the intent purpose of making money off you again. So
Right.
this cold-blooded repertory type of thing that continues to take place, not understanding debts in your future, not understanding how to design what we call a cash spending plan, not a budget, because budgets are restricting. Don't know anything about taxes, don't even know anything about insurance, the principles of building wealth, the housing situation that may come about. It's just so much information that we don't ever.
Well, can you speak to this insurance? Because I talked to a guy and we were talking about building family wealth, and he said, "Do you know the best building family wealth is insurance?"
Absolutely.
And I said, "Well, come on, so we need to have a whole thing
on insurance alone."
On insurance alone. And
Yes.
so I'm going to invite you all to please let's do this. And I'm excited about some of the things that you're speaking about, particularly instant gratification.
Yes.
Because I wanted to see from your experience in the banking, was there any training to look at culture, the reason for us needing instant gratification, and how to redirect that? So as they learn about insurance, the patience begins to increase, so that the purchasing power, what is purchased, the purchasing power increases, but the items that are purchased are those things that would build stability and wealth. I wish somebody had I wish I knew the little bit that I know now. And I wish somebody had trained me a long time ago what I'm really trying to do. Yes.
We would be wealthy. When you think in terms of consumerism, when you think in terms of who we are, we have to really go back and start dealing with the root-based therapeutics of everything. All we know is what we know. And what we do know was not in your best interest if you participate in a capitalistic society. Their objective is to use you to continue doing the things they've always done. So the less you know, the less you're going to be able to do. And the more I'm going to be able to use you to do what I need to do, because it's all about greed. It's all about the society that we live in. So when you look at our people, and I say our people, and quite frankly, they don't care what color you are. But we, the last of the freed individuals, the last of the individuals given an opportunity to go to work and participate in this culture called America, we have never, ever, been educated properly, number one, because Carter G. Woodson told us that back in 1930 that you went to school to be trained, not educated. So what he was talking about, not so much that you were being trained to function, but you didn't get the education you need so you can function in a manner to use that education for your benefit. So that education piece is clear. It's definitely one of the things that we must get to. So in monetizing your attitude, it covers the whole gamut. It covers you. And that's the key word here. We never pay attention to ourselves because we're so overwhelmed trying to participate in a society that's already dictated through mass psychosis, through trauma that we've already experienced, and we've never been given the opportunity to function as normal beings in this society that we call America. So insurances, is one of the most important things for us to know. That leaves generational wealth. Let's give a perfect example of a trust or a will or those people who have generated money. Look at
Mhm.
Paris Hilton. She'll never have to work a day in her life. Her children will never have to work a day in their life. And her children's children will never have to work a day in their life. Why? Because somebody was financially astute to know that if I'm no longer here, I want to leave this trust. I want to leave this will. I want to leave this money or this the wealth that I've already generated. So they create through insurance policies, wills, trust. Most of your commercial work in this country, building and so forth, is being money used from insurance companies. Why would I say that? Because that is the only industry, along with the banks, that people open their doors up and you take your money to them and trained to think in terms of, I need to have this, but I don't look at how I can do it for myself. You can create your own investment vehicle. You can create your own insurance generational vehicle. You can buy a home and know how to use that home and equity to do the things that you need to do and prepare yourself for the wills and trust, but more importantly, prepare yourself for your children and your children's children to benefit for your time being here on earth. You know, I use this statement, a human being. Well, how has your being affected the world that you participated in this country? And most of us can sit back and say, being here has not really been too good for us, because now we're going through these particular changes that we're going through for lack of information, lack of principles on how to build wealth, knowing that insurance policies are necessary. If my father's father's father had an insurance policy, each one of those fathers left another insurance policy for us, we would none of us have a problem going today. If we knew what insurance really was, if we knew the importance of getting a $100,000 insurance policy, a $50,000 insurance policy, and letting it ride, letting it work, putting that money in an investment vehicle and not giving to somebody who don't have information on how to manage that money when they do get it.
Well, we need
So,
to know more about that, Brother
yes,
Roger. That very much statement right there in terms of wealth building,
yes,
how to take a policy that you have and increase the value of that policy, or how to
absolutely,
invest that. And then the
absolutely,
second thing you mentioned as a course or class that we're getting ready to jump off, we need is on how to take equity, and instead of thinking of it as debt,
right,
think of it as an investment, so you could double the amount and you still have
absolutely,
income to pay the equity and let
absolutely,
that pay your
absolutely,
monthly need on that while you buy,
absolutely.
ways to diversify.
Yes.
Mhm.
Diversified income streams is one of the key elements. And what does that consist of? That requires probably a whole class of sitting down talking about how you can really diversify your income, how you could participate in investment, how can you get insurance and invest in your insurance policy, the types of insurance policies that give you long-term benefits. This question of what we do and how we do it is really one of the key questions that we need to concern ourselves with. The value of education, keys to building financial futures, understanding what relationships are all about. All these single brothers and sisters out here having babies.
Mm, mm.
This really concerns me, because I look at my daughters, I look at my grandchildren, and I'm saying to myself, how in the world are they going to make it with a lack of information, a lack of education, unless I do something now
Yes,
to begin to
yes,
show them those particular things. So we have that obligation to get ourselves educated, get our children involved in education, and we know that poverty is the greatest sin can ever be imposed on anybody. So when I look at poverty, I look at debt. When I look at poverty, I also look at mental poverty. I also look at educational poverty. Also look at cultural poverty. And so that word, is the greatest sin. You can see by not knowing, where does it take you? How deep is that rabbit hole of not knowing? So education is sacred. We all know that. But how to use education, how to protect ourselves, how to look at health benefits and disability benefits if something happened to you, personal liability that transpires in our life at all times, planning when one of us leave here that we don't have to go into debt to put that person away. Then
yes.
I'm going through that experience right now with my son's mother who passed away. No insurance policy. In the since I've been back home to St. Louis, I've had 7 different debts, and none of them had insurance policy. Now we get into this thing called cremation, because
Something took him off. But one of the things that we know, so he's really right on target. I don't know what happened. We lost him, but I'm sure he'll be back on. And we also have a young lady that is about to come on, and she's going to talk about the very thing that he's talking about and the impact that it has on decision making. But Brother Guyton, if you could unmute and begin to talk about the George Washington Carver legacy, can you? You're muted, I think. You're muted. Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me now, Dr.
Yes, I
Lewis?
can hear you. So if you could
Yeah.
talk a little bit while he's having technical, we could talk about what you mean when you said the George Washington Carver legacy and how we want to remember and what's going on with that.
Well, I just so you know, I did just let Brother Rashid know that we lost him. We were waiting on him to come back and connect with us.
Mhm.
But I'm looking forward to talking to the young lady that's coming on, and I know
Yes,
what.
she should be on in just a minute.
Okay,
But I,
but
but
concerning
mhm.
concerning George Washington Carver, and this is a huge issue because it's something that, well, let me put it like this. January the 5th, and I don't have everything in front of me like as I was preparing while we were all talking, but January the 5th, back in the 40s, and this holiday is already on the books, George Washington Carver Day. It was before
Mhm.
Martin Luther King. Uh, it was Harry Truman during the time Harry Truman was president that he proclaimed George Washington Carver, uh, uh, the George Washington Carver holiday.
Mhm.
And here we are. I mean, you could ask just about anybody about the holiday on January 5th that that's there, but we don't celebrate. Now they
It's
have.
not even on a calendar. I don't think it's on. I was looking for a calendar, and I didn't even see it on a calendar.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Did I get back in?
yeah,
You
you
did get
back
back
in,
in,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
and you came right back in at the right time because Dr. Lewis was asking me about the George Washington Carver
Mhm.
holiday. Now,
Yes.
Rashid is the one that pulled my leg about why am I not celebrating this great day and celebrating this great man? So, Rashid, I would like for you to come back and share with us about the George Washington Carver holiday.
Okay. Okay. So we'll skip over the finances for a while.
No, no, I want to bring some closure. I want to bring some fruit. I want our audience to know that we're speaking about this and
Okay.
that all of the topics, and we'll infuse this with what's upcoming,
Right.
but that all of the topics that we're speaking about today are going to become evident in our community.
Okay. Very good.
And then I want them to know that I want them to send in questions. They can text questions to
Okay.
281-381-2276. They can make recommendations on our website,
Okay.
wrc-houston.com,
Hmm.
about what you would like to know more about. You can either text or you can email in. And
Okay.
Brother Salam is going to take leadership on coordinating these studies. Some of them will be no cost, some of them will be a minimal cost. And of course, anybody out there that would like to fund this project for the area for new graduates, for educators, and for persons that want to know how to improve their lives, please, it will help with the wellness industry.
Hmm.
And so we would like to move forward. So yes, no, we're not just cutting it off. I was just
Okay.
trying to.
Well, I'm glad you keep mentioning the word wellness. Because
Yes.
it is truly. I always make the statement that none of us are well, no matter what we think. And when we can address that wellness piece, which is wholesome, is comprehensive, it's holistic, then we're on our way to making changes in our life. So to just address, I just want to close out the financial piece with we have to learn how to map out our financial plan. So that's one thing. That's what these classes and workshops will do for you. It'll give you an outstanding opportunity to come on a step-by-step process on how to change your financial life.
Mhm.
So, giving credit to this beautiful opportunity that I always try to say, we just missed. Most of the country missed, but a lot of it is already out in the general population. January 5th is the first day American of African descent was given a day of recognition in this country by the federal government. In 1945, the 79th Congress under Harry S. Truman passed the first federal law to declare George Washington Carver National Recognition Day. All federal buildings are supposed to fly their flags half-staff in honor of this individual who this country thought enough of, not us. This country thought enough of in 1945. You know what was happening to us in 1945. You know the state of the affairs here in this country in 1945. We weren't even considered have an opportunity to vote. Jim Crow laws. Who was this man that this country in 1945 thought enough of to declare a national recognition day, who happens to be the first American of African descent to get this recognition? Well, that day is here. At this time, and at the White House, there's a garden named after George Washington Carver. There's hundreds of schools named after George Washington Carver. There is a 5 historic sites. Just recently in 1997, they honored the National Science Center in Beltsville, Maryland, after George Washington Carver. There's submarines named after George Washington Carver. We here in Missouri have 210 acres dedicated as a historic site to George Washington Carver. Iowa State University has named a program for African-American students, the George Washington Carver Scholarship Fund. They have a statue of him on their campus and named a library after him. Henry Ford at his museum has the log cabin that was replicated of George Washington Carver. And on that log cabin, every single state of the Union has a log with their state and their name on it, representing George Washington Carver. Who was this great individual? A phenomenal person. And now all of a sudden, after all these years, it's now coming back into fruition thanks to the work that we did starting in California, where they declared the first national holiday, designating January 5th as George Washington Carver. Missouri has done the same thing, and a couple other states in the union have already, every year on January 5th, they designate a proclamation. And just recently, Dr. Guyton had Texas do the same thing in Texas. So we're off and running, bringing this understanding and this education to our community, not just our community. The whole world knows this man, because guess what? It wasn't us who put him in the forefront. It wasn't us who gave him this day. It was someone else who don't look like us. Now, I'm just letting you know that this man has been given an honor. The first American chemist and scientist and plant doctor, botanist, agriculturalist. This man saved the agricultural South during the time that when we had a drought in this particular country, didn't know how to produce food, didn't know how to produce products, didn't know how to use soil in the manner in which it is supposed to be used. He saved Africa and Ghana. When they had the drought there, he created this peanut milk to save those people from suffering and dying from all different types of things.
And I don't even know if we know how to even use what he, how we could use that.
Yes,
and I think Brother Guyton and Bishop Guyton and I have been talking about how to set up rural properties so that people can learn some of this thing and begin to teach young people.
Yes, we need to know him.
Brother Guyton, show us what that is. I was trying to see as you were speaking.
I'm just showing you the bookmarks, George Washington Carver bookmarks that are available now. And Brother Rashid will go in a little deeper on this. But this is one way that we could pass the good news and educate not just the younger generation, educate us about who he is. And so there's a bookmark series that Rashid's Foundation produced that we can get to the public. They're available now, and what you could do, and the bookmarks give you the history of who he is. It'll give you an opportunity to get off Facebook and put your face in a book and learn about who he is
Yes.
and why we need to know about him.
Right.
And with him being leading the charge about who we are from the inside out, the capacity that God has given us to create and to think and to lead the charge of bringing forth that type of
education.
education
Well,
and
one of the things is
demonstration as well. And
Bishop Guyton, we have a young lady on that could possibly help us too, but I wanted to get the information for our website so we can start having people to link on, as Brother Salim might have some videos, brief videos there.
Oh, most definitely.
See what I'm saying?
We have a PBS video. We have
Yes.
all different types of things. We have press releases. We have all the different things that you can post there for people to get a better understanding. What I like about Dr. George Washington Carver so much is his spirituality. He brought a new spirituality to the universal order of things by saying certain things that if you want to talk to the creator, look up in the universe. He speaks to me all the time. It's amazing philosophy, amazing story on this individual. And I'm not talking about the man, I'm talking about his spirit, and I'm talking about his work. His body of work, precedes all of us. His body of work is still being used in the International Sustainability Conference that they have every 5 years in this country or in South America, wherever it is. They still talk about we have to get back to the work of Dr. George Washington Carver, because the universal order of soil and atmosphere has been affected by the chemicals that we continue to put into our soil, thus creating this thing we call genetically modified seeds.
So, Brother Salam, the young lady that's here, she's a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I know she stepped away from her classroom to be with us.
Oh, no problem.
But wait a minute. We want to come back to this because she's concerned about an issue and want us to reflect on how we can use what we're talking about to help such a family. So she's going to bring in an idea about mental health and how all this related in terms of how finance and a person's financial status affects that. And then I want us to go back to talking about where we are with this and how we can then put it together.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Miss Payne, could you then talk a little bit about what you've observed and what you see as to how us being of African American descent and our economic situation affecting teaching and learning in the classroom in any kind of way?
Yes. Well, I'll start with, I'll give you some stats. About people of color make up about 30% of American population. However, they make up about 70% of being incarcerated. African American youths have a higher rate of juvenile incarceration that will lead to adult prison time. The average African American that complete high school is 62% versus 86% and 73% of their white and Hispanic counterparts. In the classroom, you see a lot of the children have a lot of the teachers automatically want to try to say that they have a learning disorder and put them on a 504 plan. And some parents actually encourage their children. Parents of color have been caught encouraging their children to act dumb or dumb themselves down in order to get on that 504 plan so that they can get money from the government.
Absolutely.
And things of that nature. And it's not right that, poverty is affecting people of color at such higher rates that they feel obligated to do something like that for their family.
Because when they do that, they get financial resources that augments the family when the child is diagnosed as that and receive that treatment.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a new form of, I don't want to use the word, but it's kind of like putting that person on the auction block
Absolutely.
to receive funds because of your devastation of not being able to take care of your family.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So I just had a question then. So looking at the financial and us not knowing, what is it that parents, what is it that we could do for this situation? What intervention would the community or the banking system or anyone, what would we need to do? Speaking of not only Carter G. Woodson or George Washington Carver, all of those people who did such things. And where are we now? We're putting our children out here because we don't have funds. So what is it that we could do both in the classroom and in the community, you think?
We can, set up resources and get out there and send surveys with the families in the classroom and ask them what are the things that you guys need, and the schools have, everyone is, so mixed up, especially in public school, and you can put flyers out and say, hey, if you have extra canned goods or if you have some extra detergent laying around, bring that in and just come together as a community and just bring in, because everybody has like extra, that they can share and things like that nature. I used to work for a Head Start, Get Cup Head Start, and we used to just go out there and send a survey home with the parents and be like, what is anybody low with food or anything? And on Fridays we would send them home with like toilet paper or canned goods and things like that. And it took a lot of pressure off of the parents.
You gave me an idea, and I've been thinking about this. Bishop Guyton and I have often said this. One of the things, they bring a big truck up. They give you all those items. And my thing is, I would like to see people get their needs met. But I would also think, based on what we're talking about, that we could either help people set up their own little stores, and we could also, so they can learn how to invest in themselves, possibly because we're looking at increasing sustainable income and how to get out of this situation. But yes, taking care of both ends, the immediate need and I guess the long-term need. So what are your thoughts, Bishop Guyton, and as to what Ms. Kane is saying, Brother Salam?
I just want to comment real quickly. It's a thing called community. And within that word community is the word unity. Until we come together and recognize the therapeutic programs that we have to bring together, this is a tough job, Dr.
It's a
Lewis.
tough job. Oh, I
And,
know.
and so we're saying, what is a community? It consists of individuals, it consists of families, it consists of churches, it consists of community groups and organizations. But guess what? In my years of study, in my years of participation, everybody is separate. Everybody wants to do their own thing. Everybody wants to be the executive director. Everybody wants to be something, but to get the benefit, there is no benefit on the separation that we have. So this unity that must be established comes from a pilot project, a pilot program, a organized, structured environment, recognizing what's wrong. It's not what's wrong with us, it's what happened to us. Until we address what happened to us, here we go with that mental health, here we go with that trauma, here we go with the gate fever, those root-based things that we see there's a problem here. How do you address the problem? Here's one thing that we bring in George Washington Carver back. He said back in the day, we cannot raise a strong race of people on weak soil.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I looked into, what do you mean by that? Well, sick soil creates sick plants. Sick plants create sick animals. Sick animals create sick people because we have to consume something. So I'm looking at this whole piece centered around bad food, bad thoughts. If you're not taking care of your human body, if you're not giving your body the nutrients and the minerals that it needs to function, we cannot expect our children to even think. They come to school with honey buns. They come to school with all this sugar. They come to school with the things that families do to our children because of not having any money. Guess what? You expect a child to sit in the classroom and concentrate on what? He's full of sugar. Sugar is a poison. It's one of the top poisons in the country that cause disease. So if you dis-ease the body, you dis-ease the thinking process. If
And Brother Salam.
I
And
mean,
then Brother Salam right
yes, ma'am.
there. Then while they're in the classroom and they're high on sugar, and then you remove the movement. You
Mhm.
remove the movement and you require them to sit still. And when they move, you penalize them for moving
Yes, that's right.
because
And they
now
can't help it.
they have what Miss Kane was saying. Now they have potential for dropout or moving
That's
to
right.
a correctional system
Yes.
because of violation of school rules.
You talking about 504 plan. There's nothing wrong with our
Yes.
children except for the fact
Mhm.
they cannot concentrate, they cannot think, they cannot process information because of what they've taken into their human anatomies that's not conducive for growth and development. It's not conducive for thinking. And when a child can't think, he's going to act out. When he can't learn, he's going to act out. So we have to unlearn so we can relearn. And that education piece is what I mean on how we have to address the basics. The
Yes.
And if you
financial
don't,
piece, we have money. Oh,
yeah.
well, there's no problem with money. How do we use our money?
Right.
As we were talking earlier on how our money goes into anything. The only asset we have is our cash, and we don't know how to use that. We don't know how to get good food. And you talked about the soil in the farming in the community gardens that we need to come up with. Well, that may be good too, but guess what? Is the soil toxic? So the soil is toxic. Guess what? That food doesn't even matter because the food has toxicity in as well, and it grafts onto your organs in your body, and we're full of diseases mentally, physically, and spiritually, and that is a real problem. This job has to be done succinctly in a very structured way and address the needs of our people. Or guess what? Our children will wind up in jail for the prisoner pipeline concept because they can't even think. They can't even make conscious decisions because the decisions they make are all emotional. So that balance on education, that balance on how to consume the things that we need for our bodies to function right is a serious problem in our country.
It is.
Dr. Lewis,
Yes.
diabetes is a big business.
Hmm.
And it's a big in the setup like the we were talking about the food, and the food that's given out to quote unquote help families that are struggling are foods that create the diabetic atmosphere. Everything that they give you that's non-perishable is so full of carbohydrates that the carbs going to convert to sugar. In other words, it's not so much just eating the imperial stuff, but I'm saying the food that they say, okay, you eat this, you'll survive, or they, feeding the neighborhood, feeding the community, the FDA, when they made food a drug, they knew exactly what drug that they were giving them through the food that they were given. And so you constantly eat this particular diet that's given, the outset, the end of it all is going to be now we're feeding the diabetic pipeline.
Right.
Hmm.
And what's going to end up happening, man, they're going to make a ton of money off the
Yeah.
diabetic
Yes.
drugs, diabetic treatment. And I mean, it is so much. I mean, the business connection in this thing and the way that doctors are trained to treat it even furthers the pipeline. And
Absolutely.
people being treated for this thing for 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah. We
And,
want.
and just imagine that. I mean, the cost of diabetic supplies in this country versus just across the border in Canada. I mean, the price of insulin is probably three times as much here, 3 to 5 times as much here.
But
And
Bishop Guyton, I want to say this. You're right on in terms of the whole body wellness platform. So one of the
Absolutely.
doctors that, which I'm hoping that you all will come on and talk with him on the fourth Tuesday, because he's talking about working with physicians, and he is working with physicians with the persons so that they can better talk to their physicians. It's not like you don't need them, But people, the attitude, somebody was talking about wellness as an attitude, um, of really looking at that. Yes, you can do something. You don't have to have diabetes. What he has shown through his participation is that persons who have ADHD, persons who have diabetes, no longer have it. Over
Absolutely.
a
I
period
can
of
believe
time,
that.
they no longer have it.
I
And
can
he's
believe
working
that.
with them and their
Because
physician.
it's a man-made disease.
Mhm.
It's man-made, right? Uh,
I, I have so much empathy for teachers. I'm telling you. I worked in the school districts and prison reentry and juvenile court, and teachers have to have a child come to school. Matter of fact, some of them didn't have breakfast. Some of them ate too much sugar. Some of them had all these different issues going on, onset diabetes, onset high blood pressure. Some of them can't see right, got tooth decay. And each one of these children represents something else for a teacher. So when one child start acting up, I don't know how they do it. I'll be honest with you. I have
I
nothing but
just, well,
empathy for.
I don't know. I could,
I
my
mean,
hat goes off to
I'm
them.
telling you, and
that's
and they don't pay them the kind of money that they need. And once the child begins to act up, you send them to the principal. Now here comes this diagnosis. Oh, this child has attention deficit disorder. You can trace attention deficit disorder back to the lack of magnesium and calcium, because
Right,
those are the nerve controllers that control the nervous system.
right,
But if you
right.
give
There you
them the most
go.
toxic
Mhm.
poison on the planet, and that poison is called sugar.
Right.
We poison
Mhm.
ourselves through our food. We poison ourselves through not having enough or too much of something in our bodies, with your body's inability to digest properly. We
Yeah.
have nothing but problems. And
Well,
so it's
yeah,
simple, but
it
it's so
is.
difficult to begin to teach because of poverty, because of things that we don't know. And, and as I said before, lack of knowledge, I mean, being ignorant is a devastating has a devastating effect on our community. A devastating effect. So being ignorant is not a negative word. You just don't know. So here I am, a parent bringing a child into the world, and I'm gonna put now people to understand that Infamil and all those milks. Now all of a sudden they just came out with a recall saying this stuff causes tooth decay and gum decay. Why?
Mhm.
Poison, toxic chemicals
Yes,
on
in
these
there.
things. And our women. Here's the beautiful part about God. Well, you don't have to go to the grocery store because God gave you everything in your breast to feed your baby with. We run right to the grocery store for lack of, I can't stay home, I got to go to work, finances again. I can't do this. So we put a plastic bottle in our baby's mouth, and in that plastic is carcinogenic material that causes poison, that causes concretion
Mhm.
and problems in the baby's system at an early age. So they grow up, wind up being a criminal. They don't come here being criminals. We do it because of lack of information and lack of knowledge.
Right. Oh,
This is
wow.
we got to do this. We have a lot
Well,
to do.
so here's what's getting ready to happen, but I'll just leave it at this. I know that we're going to be meeting this month.
Yes,
Toward the end of the month, that's going to be bringing everybody together, and we're going to have a meeting to look at our response.
yes,
Okay, instead of we know now,
yes,
we have people that can help us, and then we're going to look at our response at
yes,
this time. I
yes.
want to thank Miss
Dr.
Kane. I
Lewis,
want
can
Game,
I say
I
this
love you,
before?
girl. I love you. I know what you're going through in the classroom.
you.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
What we can do, Dr.
Yes,
Lewis,
thank you.
No problem.
Dr. Lewis, what we could do on your website, we could begin to make these George Washington Carver bookmarks available,
Okay.
so they could be, so we could start getting them into the schools, get them to the kids, and so we could start change right here, right now, to let
Mhm.
people know that the things that you're doing can also begin, they can begin to participate. How? Okay, you can begin to buy the bookmarks so we can give them to the kids so they can start reading, they can start learning, and can begin to see change. We're destroyed for lack of knowledge, so here's information where it could start. So we will get with Brother Rashid, and he will get with Brother Bernard working on the website and put the links in where they can actually
Exactly.
Education.
ordering these bookmarks directly off your website.
Now, don't even think. I got other thoughts on that too. So just we're going to
That's
be meeting. Yeah,
proceeds.
the answer is yes, but I want to show you. I want to throw out some ideas that is to look at to how to make it wider, how to make it functional with our students.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm trying to, and we're bringing in people who are teachers to look at this and the correctional system and things like that. So I think this week we're meeting. Is it the last? What is this? It's the last Monday. I believe it's the last Monday of this month that we're trying to pull. Our goal was to pull. I had talked to Bishop Guyton about it. We're trying to pull at least 20 people together on the last Monday of this month to see if we can start an action plan as to what it is that we're going to do and how we're going to go do it. You know, they had to save the children in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And when we actually had Save the Children program in Florida and different places on the East Coast, it actually worked.
Right.
And it
It does. It's
actually
called
worked.
trauma-informed education
Yes.
and disease management. We got to pay attention to it
Right.
and quit saying what's wrong with you and find out
And
what
what
happened to
I'm
you.
going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying to our audience.
Yes.
I do want to thank, and I know we're running over time. I got the message. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to keep you on and talk about slow down and take a topic at a time, give people references and get it on the website, send it out so people can subscribe, and we'll have written material and we'll have webinars and things like that. Okay. So you can
Yes.
put your hand on it and you'll know what to do.
Right.
Okay, then. And if you have any questions, you can go to our website, wrc-houston.com, leave some information. Brother Bernard will make sure that we get it and he'll see it, and we'll also get on there and access it. You can also text to 281-381-2276, and I will get there. We'll get the text and we'll use your questions and your suggestions.
Yes.
I want to thank our guest, Ms. Kenise Payne, who is our educator, Bishop Guyton, who is our wellness and financial person, and Brother Rashid Salam, who is, I'm going to say, our banker, our think like a banker, but our banker. Okay, so
Yes.
he's going to be our bank and our financial wellness person. Building wealth is what we're
Yes.
going to be about, wealth and health. Okay.
Right.
So I want to thank everybody, the audience, for being here. Remember, renew beliefs, rebuild faith, and reconnect families and communities. For it is not the circumstances we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines health, happiness, and success. Same time, same place. Go to the website, sign up to be an action person, become a mental health coach, do something about it.
All right.
Okay? Not talk, do. Okay, then, and I'll look forward to seeing you same time, same place, same station.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.